This story is based on real events. Names, locations, and details were changed to protect the identity and privacy of the families involved. Warren Hastings had everything a man could want in Millbrook County. 300 acres of prime farmland, a wife who smiled at church every Sunday, 2 grown sons working the fields beside him, and a reputation so clean it practically gleamed under the Tennessee sun. Then he met Tyler Crowder, 22 years old, home from college for the summer, and Sheriff Crowder's only son. It started innocent enough. Tyler helping fix a fence line that bordered their properties, sharing a beer after a long day's work. But somewhere between June and July, innocent became something else entirely. Something dangerous. Something that could burn both their lives to the ground. The affair was reckless. They met in the old tobacco barn on the edge of Warren's property, where no one had reason to go anymore. Every stolen moment was a loaded gun pointed at everything Warren had built over 53 years of hard living. His wife Martha suspected nothing. His sons saw nothing. But in a town of 1,200 souls, secrets don't stay buried long. Sheriff Tom Crowder was not a forgiving man. He'd built his career on law and order, on being the moral backbone of Millbrook. His son was supposed to follow in those footsteps, marry the Johnson girl, settle down, maybe run for office someday. Finding out about Warren would destroy him. Finding out about his own son might actually kill him. When Martha Hastings discovered a receipt from the Pinewood Motel 2 counties over, a place Warren claimed he'd never been, the first domino fell. She didn't confront him immediately. Instead, she did what any scorned woman in a small town does. She started asking questions. And in Millbrook, questions always lead to answers. Before we dive into this story, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. This channel brings you the most controversial, real-life drama from small-town America. The stories nobody wants to talk about but everyone needs to hear. Give this video a thumbs up if you're ready for something intense, and drop a comment telling me what city and country you're watching from. I love seeing where my audience is tuning in from around the world. Now let me tell you about Warren Hastings. In Millbrook County, Tennessee, reputation is currency. It's what gets your loans approved at the bank. What gets your kids hired for decent jobs? What determines whether people wave at you on Main Street or look the other way? Warren had spent 5 decades building his. He was Farmer of the Year 3 times, deacon at First Baptist. His family had worked that land since before the Civil War. But reputation is like a house of cards. Takes years to build. Takes one strong wind to knock it all down. And Warren was about to face a hurricane. Tyler Crowder came back from the University of Memphis that summer with a degree in criminal justice and a future laid out like a roadmap. His father, Sheriff Tom Crowder, had already arranged an interview with the county prosecutor's office. Tyler would work his way up just like Tom had. Clean living, hard work, family values. That was the Crowder way. Nobody expected what happened next. Not Martha Hastings, who'd been married to Warren for 28 years. Not Tom Crowder, who trusted his son completely, and certainly not the good people of Millbrook, who thought they knew exactly who Warren Hastings was. They were all wrong. Dead wrong. It started on a Tuesday in early June. Warren was fixing the fence that separated his property from the Crowder land when Tyler pulled up in his truck. The kid, though at 22 he wasn't really a kid anymore, hopped out wearing jeans and a faded Memphis Tigers shirt. "Mr. Hastings, my dad said you might need a hand with this fence." Warren straightened up, wiping sweat from his forehead. "Sheriff's got you doing charity work now?" Tyler grinned. "More like keeping me busy so I don't drive him crazy. I've been home 2 weeks, and he's already tired of seeing me on the couch." They worked together for 3 hours replacing rotted posts and stringing new wire. Tyler was stronger than he looked, and he didn't complain about the heat or the work. Warren found himself enjoying the company. His own sons, David and Marcus, barely spoke to him anymore unless it was about crop yields or equipment repairs. "You play football at Memphis?" Warren asked, handing Tyler a bottle of water from the cooler. "Baseball. Pitched 2 seasons before I blew out my shoulder." Tyler drank half the bottle in one go. "That's when I figured I'd better have a backup plan. Law enforcement like your daddy? That's the idea." Tyler looked out across Warren's fields, golden wheat rippling in the breeze. "Though I gotta say, this looks pretty peaceful compared to what I'm heading into." Warren studied the young man. There was something different about Tyler, something that reminded him of himself at that age. Before marriage, before responsibility, before he'd locked certain parts of himself away in boxes he'd promised never to open. "It's peaceful until it isn't," Warren said. "Farming's a gamble. Weather, markets, equipment breaking down at the worst possible time. But at least you're your own boss." They finished the fence just before sunset. Tyler refused payment, but Warren insisted he take a six-pack of beer for his trouble. As Tyler drove away, Warren stood there longer than he should have, watching the dust settle on the dirt road. That night at dinner, Martha talked about the church bake sale, while Warren pushed food around his plate. His sons discussed fertilizer prices. Warren nodded at the appropriate moments, but his mind was elsewhere, replaying the afternoon. The way Tyler's shirt stuck to his back in the heat, the easy way he laughed, the faint scar on his left forearm from some childhood accident. It meant nothing. It was just a neighbor helping a neighbor. That's what Warren told himself as he lay in bed that night, Martha snoring softly beside him. It meant absolutely nothing. But Warren had been lying to himself for 30 years. What was one more lie? 3 weeks passed. Tyler showed up again, this time without the sheriff sending him. Said he was bored and wanted to learn about farming. Warren should have said no. Should have made an excuse. Instead, he put the kid to work mucking out the old tobacco barn. Nobody used that barn anymore. Tobacco farming had died out in Millbrook a decade ago, but the structure still stood. Weathered wood and rusted hinges, tucked back in a corner of Warren's property where the main road couldn't see it. It was private, isolated, dangerous in all the ways Warren was trying not to think about. They worked side by side, clearing out ancient equipment and years of accumulated junk. Tyler stripped off his shirt after an hour, too hot to care about modesty. Warren kept his on despite the sweat soaking through. "Mr. Hastings, can I ask you something?" Warren's hands froze on the pitchfork he was holding. "Shoot. Did you always want this? The farm, the family, all of it?" It was an odd question. Warren set down the pitchfork carefully. "It's what was expected. My daddy farmed this land. His daddy before him. Didn't seem like there was much choice in it." Tyler nodded slowly, dragging a broken wagon wheel toward the door. "Yeah, I know that feeling." Something in his tone made Warren look up. Tyler was staring out at the fields, but his expression was distant, troubled. "Your daddy's got plans for you," Warren said. It wasn't a question. Big ones. Prosecutor's office, then maybe district attorney if I play my cards right. Eventually, politics. Tyler turned back to Warren. "He's got my whole life mapped out. Just like his was. Just like his daddy's before him. That's not what you want. Does that matter?" Tyler's voice carried an edge of bitterness Warren recognized all too well. "In this town, you're either what people expect, or you're nothing." They stood there in the dim barn, dust motes floating in the shafts of sunlight coming through the gaps in the walls. Warren knew he should say something encouraging, something about following your dreams or being true to yourself. All the useless platitudes people offered when they didn't understand the real cost of honesty. Instead, he said, "You get used to it, the pretending." Tyler looked at him then, really looked at him, and Warren felt something shift in the air between them. Recognition, maybe. Or understanding. Whatever it was mutual and it was dangerous. "I don't want to get used to it," Tyler said quietly. Warren should have walked away right then. Should have sent Tyler home and never let him come back. But loneliness is a powerful thing, and Warren had been lonely for longer than he cared to admit. Not for company. He had plenty of that. Lonely for someone who understood the weight of carrying secrets that could never see daylight. "Help me move this shelf," Warren said, breaking the moment. "Then we'll call it a day." But they both knew something had changed. It happened on a Friday night in July. Martha had driven to Nashville to visit her sister. David and Marcus were at a livestock auction 2 counties over. Warren was alone on the property when Tyler's truck rolled up the drive just after sunset. Tyler didn't offer an excuse for why he was there. Warren didn't ask for one. They walked to the tobacco barn without speaking, the summer crickets loud in the gathering dark. Inside, Tyler pulled 2 beers from a cooler he'd brought. They sat on old hay bales, drinking in silence. The barn smelled like dust and ancient tobacco and something else. Possibility, maybe, or ruin. Probably both. "My dad wants me to propose to Sarah Johnson," Tyler said finally. "He's been hinting at it for weeks. Says it's time I settled down. Warren took a long drink. Sarah's a nice girl. Sarah's boring as hell. We've been dating since high school because that's what everyone expected. She talks about wedding colors and baby names and I just... Tyler stopped, shaking his head. I can't do it, Mr. Hastings. I can't marry her and pretend for the rest of my life. What's the alternative? I don't know. Leave town, maybe. Start over somewhere nobody knows me. Tyler looked at Warren. Did you ever think about that? Just leaving? Warren had thought about it 1,000 times. Every Sunday sitting in church. Every night lying next to Martha. Every time his sons looked at him with eyes that saw only the man he pretended to be. Every damn day, Warren admitted. But I never did it. Too much to lose, too many people depending on me. So you just... what, bury it? You bury it so deep you almost forget it's there. Warren crushed his empty beer can. Almost. Tyler set down his own beer and moved closer. Too close. Warren could smell his cologne mixed with sweat. Could see the pulse beating in his throat. I don't want to bury it, Tyler said, his voice barely above a whisper. Warren knew what was about to happen. Had known since that first day on the fence line if he was being honest with himself. He could stop it. Should stop it. One word and Tyler would leave, and they could both go back to their separate lives. But Warren was 53 years old and tired of lying. Tired of pretending. Tired of wanting things he could never have. So when Tyler kissed him, Warren kissed back. It was reckless and stupid and felt like drowning and coming up for air all at once. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Warren saw his own fear reflected in Tyler's eyes. They'd just crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. We can't do this, Warren said, but his hands were still gripping Tyler's shirt. I know. They did it anyway. And for a few stolen hours in that forgotten barn, Warren Hastings let himself be honest for the first time in 3 decades. The price for that honesty would be catastrophic. Martha Hastings found the receipt on a Wednesday morning in mid-August. She'd been doing laundry when it fell out of Warren's jeans pocket, a crumpled piece of paper from the Pinewood Motel in Crawford County. Room 14. One night. Cash payment. Warren never went to Crawford County. They had no business there, no family, no reason. And Warren certainly never stayed in motels. He barely left Millbrook except for the farm supply store in the next town over. Martha sat on the edge of their bed, staring at that receipt until the numbers blurred. 28 years of marriage. 2 sons. A life built on trust and routine, and the comfortable assumption that she knew her husband. The receipt said she didn't know him at all. She could have confronted him directly, could have demanded answers. But Martha wasn't a fool. She'd watched enough marriages implode in Millbrook to know that accusations without proof only gave guilty men time to cover their tracks. Instead, she went to lunch with Diane Foster, the biggest gossip in town, and casually mentioned how strange it was that Warren had seemed distracted lately. Working late, taking phone calls outside, Diane's eyes had lit up like Christmas morning. By Friday, 3 different women had approached Martha at the Piggly Wiggly with concerns about her marriage. Each one had a different theory. An affair with the widow Henderson who'd been making eyes at Warren at church. Or maybe that divorced woman who'd moved in above the hardware store. Someone had seen Warren's truck near the old Morrison place at odd hours. Martha listened to every theory, thanked them for their concern, and filed away each piece of information. She was building a case. The way Sheriff Crowder built cases against criminals. Evidence, patterns, proof. What she didn't expect was for Susan Crowder, the sheriff's wife, to pull her aside after Sunday service. Martha, honey, I need to talk to you about something. Susan's face was tight with worry. It's about Tyler. Martha's stomach dropped. What about him? He's been acting strange since he came home from college. Secretive. Going out at odd hours, won't say where. Susan lowered her voice. Tom thinks maybe he's gotten himself mixed up with the wrong crowd. Drugs or something. You know how kids are nowadays? What does this have to do with me? Well, someone saw Tyler's truck parked on your property late at night last week. I thought maybe you or Warren knew something about where he's been going. Martha felt the world tilt sideways. Tyler Crowder, Warren's late nights, the motel receipt. The pieces were there, but they didn't form the picture Martha had expected. Not even close. She made her excuses and walked to her car on legs that barely held her. In the parking lot, she saw Warren talking with Sheriff Crowder by the truck, both men laughing about something. Warren's hand rested on the sheriff's shoulder in easy friendship. Martha wondered how much longer that friendship would last once Tom Crowder learned the truth. She wondered if her marriage would survive the answer. Martha hired a private investigator from Memphis. Cost her $1,500 she pulled from her secret savings account. Money Warren didn't know she had, saved from years of careful grocery budgeting and birthday checks from her mother. The investigator's name was Ray Palmer. He didn't ask questions, just took the job. 2 weeks later, he handed Martha a manila envelope in the parking lot of a Cracker Barrel off Interstate 40. Inside were photographs. Warren and Tyler entering the tobacco barn, sitting close on hay bales. Tyler's truck parked behind Warren's property at midnight. And one photo that left no room for doubt, taken through a gap in the barn walls, grainy but unmistakable. Warren and Tyler in an embrace that no one could misinterpret. Martha threw up in the restaurant bathroom. When she finally emerged, pale and shaking, Ray Palmer was gone. She sat in her car for an hour, staring at those photographs, trying to reconcile them with the man she'd slept beside for 28 years. She didn't know Warren at all, had never known him. Their entire marriage was a lie. The smart thing would have been to file for divorce quietly, take the photos to a lawyer, split assets, move on. But Martha wasn't feeling smart. She was feeling betrayed and humiliated and furious beyond rational thought. So she did something that would destroy everyone involved. She made copies of the photographs and mailed one set to Sheriff Tom Crowder at his office. Then she walked into First Baptist Church during Wednesday night Bible study, interrupted Pastor Green mid-sermon, and announced to the entire congregation that her husband was having an affair with the sheriff's son. The silence that followed was absolute. Then someone gasped. Someone else started crying. Pastor Green's face went purple. Martha dropped the remaining photographs on the front pew and walked out. She drove straight to her sister's house in Nashville and didn't look back. Within an hour, the entire town knew. By morning, the news had spread to neighboring counties. Sheriff Crowder arrived at Warren's farm at dawn with 4 deputies, his face a mask of cold fury. He didn't arrest Warren. There was no crime to charge him with. But he made it clear that if Warren ever came near Tyler again, Tom would find a reason. Tyler was on a bus to Atlanta before noon, sent away by his father to stay with relatives until things cooled down. He left without saying goodbye to anyone. Warren's sons moved out that same day. David didn't speak a single word to his father. Marcus punched a hole in the wall and told Warren he was dead to him. The church board removed Warren from his deacon position. The Farm Bureau revoked his Farmer of the Year awards. Neighbors who'd waved to him for decades now crossed the street to avoid him. Warren Hastings had lost everything in less than 24 hours. And the worst part? He deserved every bit of it. 6 months later, Warren still worked his farm. He had to. It was all he had left. The fields didn't care about his reputation. The crops didn't judge him. He worked from sunrise to sunset, alone because no one in Millbrook would work for him anymore. Martha never came back. The divorce was finalized in November. She got the house in town that had belonged to her mother, plus half of everything they'd built together. Warren kept the farm and the debt that came with it. His sons refused to attend the proceedings. Tyler never returned to Millbrook either. Warren heard through fragments of gossip that he'd moved to Atlanta permanently, was working at a law firm there. Someone said he had a boyfriend. Someone else said he was engaged to a woman he'd met at church. Warren didn't know which story was true and had no way to find out. Sheriff Tom Crowder resigned 3 months after the scandal broke. Said he was taking early retirement, but everyone knew the truth. The shame had broken him. His wife Susan divorced him within a year. The Crowder name, once synonymous with law and order in Millbrook County, was now associated with scandal and disgrace. Warren sat on his porch most evenings, watching the sun set over his fields, and thought about the cost of honesty. He'd spent 53 years living a lie to protect his reputation. Then he'd been honest for a few stolen weeks, and that truth had destroyed everything. Was it worth it? Warren didn't know. Maybe there was no good answer.